Welcome back, family, to another episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. I am so excited about my guest today. She's going to give us some valuable insight, right? And she's going to give us chat about a tool that I use in my wellness as well. But before we get started, family, y'all know how we do over here. We always give a 30 seconds of gratitude before we jump into the episode. Because when you're operating in that space of gratitude, you can't operate in negativity, right? So I'm going to allow my guest, Dr. Chen, to tell us her gratitude for the day. Go ahead, Amanda, take it away.
Right. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me here. But let's just anchor into all the things that we're grateful for right now, right? Even in our physical body, you might look at your feet and you're grateful for all the steps that it's ever taken with you, right? Into your heart. Your heart, for most of us, has never skipped a beat and has been there even before we were born.
Yes.
So think of the gratitude of the heart and then of the lungs, right? With every breath that you take, you don't have to think about it. It's there for you. And when you breathe, we're also connecting with everybody else around us who's taking a breath as well. So let's bring gratitude to breath.
Oh my God, that is so awesome. Like I got goosebumps just now, y'all, listening to her gratitude. So my gratitude is also for my body, the strength, the skeleton that carries me every single day. When I open my eyes don't fail me. I look in the mirror and I'm able to recognize who I'm looking at, my family, the whole healthy foods that we are able to access, the support system. I say this every single episode. My support system, I could not do it without them, my family, my support team. I just couldn't do this without them. And I'm grateful for the guests that I connect with that bring these types of valuable information pieces to us so that we can make this chapter our best chapter. And I'm thankful for you, my listeners, because without you, I would be here talking to myself. Now, y'all know that was probably way more than 30 seconds, but like I always say, you can never be thankful enough for what you have because there will always be enough of what you need. All right, let's get into the topic today. Today's topic, we're going to discuss how you can use chiropractic healing to help regulate your nervous system. Like, listen, people overlook it. People think that chiropractic is just going in there and getting your back cracked, but it's much deeper than that. And I have been a walking, living testimonial of how wonderful chiropractic healing can be. So my guest today, Amanda Chan, Dr. Amanda Chan. Let me address her properly, y'all. She's a non-traditional chiropractor, and she focuses on helping people to regulate and optimize their nervous systems with chiropractic healing. So, question one, I want to know, I know about you, but my audience doesn't. So can you tell them more about you? Where are you from? Where are you at right now? And a little bit more about how you started your journey.
Sure. So even as a young kid, I've wanted to help people and I've always looked at the medical field. Like I remember wanting to be a nurse even at the age of 4 years old. What I didn't know is that I actually am allergic to some of the medication. Like it makes me nauseous, it makes me throw up. So I couldn't take what I needed to. So I had to go another way, right? I had to find things that were more natural and that my body didn't react to. It wasn't that they were bad, I just couldn't take it, right? And so along the way, I've developed tools and strategies that have helped people else heal. And so my mission now is to help people on their healing journey, to guide them so that they can achieve whatever that they want to.
Right. So where are you from, Dr. Chan? Where are you located in this big giant world?
I'm actually in Canada, in a little city in Ottawa, so in the nation's capital.
Yeah. Nice. You know what? It's so awesome. And one of the things that I absolutely love so much about having this platform is that I've been able to reach people all over. And it's so awesome because that way we can get out the very valuable information that we have to offer. So by the time somebody comes to see you, right? They're already got some problems and it's probably pretty bad. So for someone that, may not know like when it's time to come see somebody like you, like what are typical signs that, hey, it might be time for you to kind of explore a little chiropractic healing?
So most people come in because they're in pain or they have a symptom, and it's not that it just started, right?
Right.
When it first starts, most people are like, oh, I'll just ignore it a little bit. Can't be that bad. See if it will go away. So by the
Yes.
time they make it into my office, it's made a significant impact in some area of their life, right? So whether if it's their back, they can no longer pick up their children, or they can no longer play golf or whatever sport that they want. That's when it starts affecting their life, is when we usually see people take the steps of coming in.
Yes. So what are some of the most common issues that people come in with? Is it back? Is it neck? Is it shoulders? Like what are the most common things that you see when people come in to see you?
So from when I was let's say regular chiropractor, it would be neck pain, back pain, kind of pain.
Yes.
Now, because I'm working on the nervous system, I get a lot of people coming in from stress, and especially over the last few years, we all
Yes.
know what we're talking about. Um, People have been coming in with so much more weight, like invisible weight on their shoulders than ever
Yes.
before, right?
Yes.
So what we're seeing is stress, anxiety, weight gain. I've had people who haven't seen me in 3 years, and then they come in and they're 20 to 30 pounds heavier than the last time I saw them, right?
Yes.
So those are definitely when people show up. They're not feeling good, they weigh too much, they're lack of energy. So it's a little different from the pain that a lot of people do come in with.
Right. So now for me, I that is one of the things that I help people with is trying to regulate that nervous system with using yoga, especially from a standpoint of trauma and anxiety or depression. And so a lot of times my clients and I were working on that. So can you share with us a little bit of how that looks for your clients when they come in, you starting to get to that nervous system with your specific type of chiropractic healing?
Sure. So, what I want people usually to understand when people come in with something physical, I want them to take a look at the possibility or entertain the possibility that it could be more than just what the physical thing is.
Right.
So, let's take, for example, in Canada, we get a lot of snow, especially where I am. And
Yeah.
so, in winter, we get people coming in with back pain and they say it's because they were shoveling. So, physically, yes, I want to know how much snow you're picking up, how long you've been shoveling, what your technique was. Emotionally and mentally, I want to know, what were you thinking while you were shoveling? Were you saying, I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job,
Right. Right.
right? Or were you saying, how come I'm the only one out here shoveling? How come nobody's out here to help me? And then your back goes out,
Yes.
right? We
Yes.
want to look at the other components of what could be happening to a person. Because if we just address the physical and we haven't looked at the emotional and mental aspect, then can true healing actually occur?
Yes, I agree with you totally on that. And it's funny because I think now, I think COVID, we don't want to name it, but it is what it is. I think COVID caused a lot of inner reflection for a lot of people. And we began to see people realizing that by the time a symptom became physical, by the time it manifests in a physical way, there was already something else happening in the background. So I know that in my practice, when I'm working with people, we start with the emotions first. We start there. We start the journaling process so that we can kind of get deep diving and rooting into like, okay, where is this starting from? Because like you said, by the time your neck's hurting, your shoulders are hurting, your head's hurting, your back's hurting. By the time those things start hurting, there's something else that was happening prior to. So what tools and techniques do you use to help them address those inner issues before we get to the physical issue?
Yeah. So some of the tools that you were saying, like yoga is a beautiful system and a beautiful tool that helps, and breath work, right?
Yeah.
Journaling, but the awareness needs to be there first, right? So questioning people and meeting them where they are first, right?
Absolutely.
That's the first step. And then taking them a little bit further and opening their mind to seeing, okay, what else could this be, right? Even just asking something like that. So I usually question deeper and deeper until I get a pause. Because I
Yes.
know at that time, a new connection in the nervous system and brain is being made. And that's
Yes.
when I know that the person is ready for a change or a shift in some way.
Yes, yes. And that's typically it. It's the pause when you've got to stop and kind of think for a minute. You're like, okay, I struck something right there. Let's
Yeah.
go a little deeper into that. Because I like to do the why question. The why question, because I've had that done to me and I know how powerful that why is. And most people will absolutely start on the surface. And then if you
Yes.
keep going, well, why is that? And then why is that? And then why is that? And they're like, well, wait, I didn't even know that it was that deep, that it had that many layers. And it's so interesting. I've had it done to me to the point where it brought me to tears. So but it is a wonderful discovery tool to helping people really get to the core of whatever an issue is. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Like similar to you when you ask why, mine is tell me more, tell me more, tell me more.
Yeah.
And then I be quiet because
Yeah.
I just listen.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
how many people really have somebody just fully listen to them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell my children this when they're back and forth and they're arguing. I said the point in which a person starts to scream or yell, that means they don't feel like they're being heard. And I said, so you have to listen to someone first. By the time a person becomes very angry and belligerent, oftentimes they feel like they're not being heard in some aspect of their life. And so if you just tell a person often, I hear you, oftentimes that's the key. Everybody just wants to be heard. Everybody just wants to have what they're feeling validated. Not necessarily saying, "Hey, I agree with what you're saying," but I understand what you're saying and I understand why you might feel that way, why you would perceive it that way. So, do you see clients of all ages coming in to your alternative type of chiropractic practice, or is it primarily a certain subset of people that come into your office?
Well, I see a range because I have children as well. So I tend to attract a lot of younger kids just because that is the frequency which I am in is I have young kids. So young kids come and see me.
Yes.
Our office as a whole in Ottawa, we specialize in chronic long-term illness. So there is
Mhm.
definitely a subset of people who have been ill for a while, who've seen everybody else, where usually the 10th, doctor that they've seen. So we really get people when they're just almost at their end,
Yes.
like just they're so frustrated. They've tried everything.
Yes.
A lot of people, the first time I meat them, they're like arms crossed. What are you
Of
gonna do,
course.
right?
Yes.
My favorite type, right? Um, so
Well,
I
they don't
actually,
believe.
yeah, and that's my favorite thing. So because of what we're known for, that is the type of person that tends to come in to see me when they first start.
Okay. So I have a question. So I have lupus. I have a chronic illness and I have lupus. I was diagnosed in 2019. So that's only 3 years ago. So I've lived quite a long time dealing with the issues that lupus causes. So, those the physical pain and the fatigue. So if I came into your office and I said, Doc, I've tried some other things, but I just can't seem to quite figure out what to do because I'm just still suffering so much and I just want to live somewhat of a normal life. What would you say? How would you approach that?
So one of the most important things that I like to share with people is my motto, and that is the doctor determines the diagnosis, you decide the prognosis.
Right. Yes.
So what that means is Just because somebody told you, or the internet or Dr. Google or whatever told you that that's what you have, which is just accumulation of a certain amount of symptoms, and they named it this,
Yes.
it doesn't mean that your fate has been decided already, right?
Right.
So there are things that are within your control. So I don't like when people come in and say, okay, you're the doctor, you fix it. And then if you don't fix it, then you're like, okay, it's all your fault. Okay, so we need to, I have seen many people with the same diagnosis. Like not everybody that comes in with SLE, which is lupus, has the same prognosis. There are some people
Right.
who have it in remission for 10, 15 years, don't feel a single symptom.
Yes.
Right? So what we want to do is look at what can we control. We might not be able to control your genetics or, you know, your age at the time you come in, right? But what is in your control? Well, the foods that you put in your mouth, right?
Yes.
Your sleep to a certain extent, right? You can do the best things that you can to promote a good sleep pattern,
Yes.
right? The exercise that you do within your capacity and within your limits, but you still get to decide how much, right?
Yes.
And the thoughts, the emotions that you experience. So we would look at what is within your control, because even just that can change the whole outcome of your disease.
It absolutely can. It absolutely can. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think that, you know, oftentimes, especially in modern medicine, you know, when you're told that you have a diagnosis, for example, like what I have, oh, the first thing that's jumped to is medications. And I remember saying I did not want to be a slave to medications for the rest of my life. I remember being a relatively healthy and fit person. I've been in the fitness industry for 12 years. And so I was determined that I was going to find something different, that I wasn't going to sit and take medications all the time, but I also was not going to be miserable all the time either. And definitely, people don't understand that one of the biggest ways you can change your life is by what you are eating. You're
Yes.
supposed to eat to live, not the other way around. And oftentimes the things that we're putting in our bodies are passed down generation, generation, generation. And so you're thinking it's no big deal. But if you look at the pathology of that, there's often, you know, markers that show that these things are contributing to these ailments that may run in your genetics per se. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. So one of the questions that I ask, or that I try and figure out, because the best um, factor, the biggest factor in somebody's prognosis is really, and there's a degree to these two camps, right? But one is as long as, and the other one is whatever it takes. So if a person, a whatever it takes person, and puts their healing as their number one priority, they will do whatever it takes. You diet, exercise, exercise, you know, journal every day, gratitude every day. I will do whatever it takes. Okay, their probability, their prognosis goes way up. And then
Yes.
as long as it doesn't cost too much money, as long as it doesn't take too much time, as
Yes.
long as I don't have to get up at this time, like as long, if you give me a full list, like 50 excuses, then it becomes a lot harder,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
and there's degrees, obviously, depending on how much energy one would have and stuff, but depending where you land in that spectrum, it's a huge indicator of your prognosis.
Absolutely. I agree so much. And the as long as clause is it gets in the way of so many people's healing and they don't really understand it. And it's often that it's more of an inconvenience. And, you know, I often ask clients, like when we have a chat before they begin to work with me one-on-one, I'll ask them, if you leave me today and you do absolutely nothing, you're doing exactly what you're doing, how does that look?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself 3 months from now, 6 months from now? How does that look? And
For sure.
oftentimes, yes, and oftentimes it gives people that there's that pause because now they're like, well, wait a minute. So, what does Dr. Chan do for self care?
I love self-care because it can take on so many different things, right?
Yes.
Um, for physical work, I see my chiropractor, I get a massage, I go to my naturopath, you know, whenever the time calls for it.
Yes.
I'm very fortunate where in my office, because we have a like a sauna here, so I can just go upstairs and have
Oh,
one.
that's so awesome.
So not everybody is as fortunate. I understand that, but something as much as like journaling is huge for me. The first 45 minutes of the day, I have young kids. I get up earlier than anybody in the house, right? I go for a run, I journal, and I meditate. And that's just for me. No one else will, like, if somebody wakes up before then, they are not to come near me until that my space has been finished.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that so much. You know, self-care is such a big deal and it's talked about so much. And I think that often people think that self-care has to look a certain way because of what they see on social media. But self-care really honestly is whatever helps you to take care of yourself. One way that I do self-care is I craft. I absolutely love it. I mean, my Cricut machines get a work out, okay? That is one way that I do self-care because it is so calming and it helps me to clear my head and really get into a good space and it almost grounds me. Obviously yoga and meditation, but it is such a wonderful tool and I just love hearing what other people do for self-care. I love it. And it gives our listeners ideas of things that they maybe hadn't thought of before because again, people think that it's supposed to look a certain way. They kind of get caught up in the pageantry of it and think that they've got to spend a ton of money and all these things. And that's really not necessary. It's just about taking care of yourself. Now,
Yes.
every guest that comes on the show gets to play a little game with me toward the end of the show. So, are you game?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. The game is called This or That. And I play this with my kids all the time. And it's super fun. And it's like, and I have a lot of teenagers, and so it's really easy sometimes for teenagers to shut down. So this game is a lot of fun, and it really gets them going. All right, so the first question is coffee or tea?
Tea.
Cats or dogs?
Hypoallergenic dog. I'm allergic to both, so we're gonna go with
Same,
hypoallergenic one of them.
same. Action movies or rom-coms?
Rom-com.
Test the waters or dive in the deep end?
Dive in the deep end unless it covered in snow.
Art museum or history museum?
Okay, I'm gonna say art museum because of a funny thing. I took my kids to the art museum when they were like super young, so we're talking 2 years old, right?
Mm.
And so we enter this grand hall, and there's this one beautiful painting, and my son starts screaming, and so I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I love the echo in here."
That's so funny.
That's the best part of the museum.
You listen, you gotta love 2-year-olds. I have a 2-year-old granddaughter that I'm currently raising, and listen, oh my goodness, I'd forgotten my youngest child is 12, so I'd forgotten all about that 2-year-old energy, okay? So, all right, next one, indoors or outdoors?
Ooh, outdoors.
Rain or shine?
Shine.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Makeup or natural?
Natural.
Dressed up to go out for the night or staying in and Netflix and chilling?
Chili. Jammies all the way.
Listen, I'm with you on that. Sometimes I'm just too tired to do anything else. Thank you for playing the game with me. That was super fun. So, before we go, share with our audience how they can reach out to you if they'd like to connect. And do you currently have any offerings or anything that you would like to share with our audience that they can get in on?
For sure. So most people think that I just, I am a chiropractor and I do have an office, but I actually do courses online and virtually.
Nice.
So I'm always running free workshops or different courses. I have a couple that are coming up. One that I do is the daily dose of healing, Monday to Thursday, every single morning. I do a meditation, a journaling, yoga, whatever, and we send it to your inbox bright and early. And so you can get connected every single morning to your healing.
Awesome. That is so awesome. Listen, guys, this has been an amazing topic, and I really hope that you guys are getting in and soaking in all that value. I am going to have all of Amanda's socials, website, everything. It's going to be in the show notes of this episode. Amanda, thank you so much for coming and sharing with me and my audience. You actually gave me a lot of things to think about. I appreciate you so very much.
Thank you so, so much.
All right, family, we appreciate you. I love you to life. And thank you so much for listening to another episode. And until then, stay well.